Hi, welcome to Android app development. In our previous module, we learned about action bar and option menu. In this module, we will learn about fragments. A fragment represents a portion of user interface in an activity. What I mean by that is you can have your activity layout in such a way that a part of it you can replace it with a fragment and another part of it also you can replace it with a fragment. In a way, fragments enable dividing UI into sections, and fragment decomposes application functionality and UI into reusable modules. What I mean is that you can create two fragments and you can use them in multiple activities so that your code is actually divided into section and it is reusable again. And you can put multiple fragments in your activity so that you don't have to switch between the one activity and another activity. And fragment have their own life cycle. And to support a fragment, you need API level 11 and above. In this module, what we'll try to do is we'll create a simple app where the part of it is a list view, which is a one fragment, and the part of it where the description is displayed, it's a one fragment. So whenever user click on any course title, the description changes. And these are two different fragments and we added them to our main activity. Now let's create a simple project. Say go to file, new project, say application name is fragment and minimum required SDK we will select is 11 and say next, 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 finish. To build an app which display a list of course in one fragment and the description in other fragment, first we need is a content. So our course title array is one content and the description is another content. So what I did is I have already added resource called array, and in this one I have defined the course title as a one string array and the description title as another string array. I have already extracted our string literals in our string resource file. You can see that for titles we have the title defined here and the description are defined here. So first of all, let's create our description fragment. So to do that, first of all, let's go to layout and create our description layout. Go to new layout resource and type. So this will create a layout for our description. And let's do one thing here is that create a simple plain text view and select the top margin here and set activity vertical margin and just click on this and say this text as a sample text for displaying description, and this ID says text view description. So our description fragment layout is ready. Now let's create a class for this fragment. Say new Java class and say description fragment. Say OK. Now to create a fragment, you need to extend this description fragment from the fragment class. So let's say extends and fragment. Now what we'll do is we will override two methods. One is onCreate and one is onCreateView. OnCreateView method will return the view of our fragment to the Android system. So go to the code and say override and sort them and say type onCreate. So there is an onCreate view and there is an onCreate. At the top is onCreate. So select these two, say OK. So these two methods have been created. Now onCreate is called when our fragment is created. System calls onCreateView when it's time for the fragment to draw its user interface for the first time. And to draw a UI for your fragment, you must return a view from this method that is the root of your fragment layout, which you can see is our container here. And this container parameter passed to onCreateView is a parent view group in which your fragment layout will be inflated. Now what we'll do is, first of all, we'll remove this and we will inflate our description fragment layout into our parent view container. So to do that, what we'll do is we'll define a view here. say view equal to inflator dot inflate. First is our resource ID, which will be r dot layout dot description, fragment description, and the second parameter which required is our parent container, which will be our container, and the last parameter is attached root flag. In our case is false because we are already inflating our layout in our container, which is our parent view. And after this, now what we need is we need to return this view, and to make this fragment self-contained and reusable, we'll try to implement all the functionality in this fragment itself, and we'll expose a method to interact with this fragment. So to do that, to display our description resource array, so first of all what we'll do is we'll get our string array, and to set a description we need a text view. Now to find a text view from our layout, as this is not activity, this is a fragment, so find view by ID will not work directly. We need to take this view and find the view from this. So how we will do that is we'll say our text view description equal to view dot find view by ID, and say r dot id dot text view description, and for typecasting it's say alt enter, and sorry, and so say alt enter and select the second option, cast to Android text view. And now one more thing we need to do in our description fragment is initialize this description. So to do that, what we need to do is, let's say get resource dot get string array, and we need to pass our array dot course description. Now our description has a list of array and our text view has our description view. Now let's expose set description method so that anyone can use this fragment and set the text view for our description. What we'll do is now that this index represent our description index. So first of all what we need to do is text view description dot set text, and from our array we will select an item with this index. So description and select index. So now our description is being set. Now let's create our title fragment, which is our list of title. So to do that, go to here, say new, say Java class, say title fragment, and say OK. Now instead of extending it from a simple fragment, we will extend it from the list fragment so that we get a list functionality already in our fragment. So what we'll do is extend from. Now in our previous fragment, what we did is we override on create view method because we were creating that fragment from start. So as we are implementing list fragment, we don't need to override on create view. Instead of that, we will override on activity created method, and in this method what we will do is we will bind our data to a list view. So to bind data to list fragments list view, we need an object of the class which implements list adapter interface, and array adapter generic class does that, which takes three arguments. First, a context of an activity which holds this fragment, and second is the layout of a list, and the third one is a data for a list view. So first of all what we'll do is we'll create array adapter and say we want for strings array adapter equal to new array adapter say string, and it needs three arguments as I already said. So first is context of the activity which holds it, and to get that context what we need to do is just call get activity, and it will give us the context of our activity. Second thing, we need resource ID of our list view or our list fragment. What we can do is instead of creating a new layout, we can use an existing layout which is provided by the Android systems. To do that, what we'll do is we'll type android dot r dot layout dot simple list item. This is a one layout which is a simple list of items, and we need only one item in our list, so this suits our requirement. So say list item and the last item it needs is an object which is a list of our titles. And to do that, first of all we need to define an object which holds our titles. So what we'll do is string and say array titles. Okay. Now to get the titles, we can do is titles equal to get resource dot get string array and say r dot array dot our post title. So now we have our titles. Now we'll pass our titles here, titles. So our adapter is ready. Now what we need to do is to bind our data to the list, we need to call set adapter, set list adapter, and pass our adapter. So we'll say array adapter, and now this is done. Now from the list view, suppose if somebody clicks an item, so we need to pass that information from this activity to other activity which shows our description. So first of all we'll override on item click. So say on list item click method, and in this method what we want to do is we want to pass this position of our title to a description fragment. So to pass this item position from our title fragment to description fragment, we need a class which coordinate this work. Our coordinator in this case is our main activity. So we will create an interface on item click listener, and our main activity will implement an interface. In the on item click method, we will pass this position to our main activity, and from the main activity we will pass that item index to our description fragment so that it is displayed on the UI. To do that, first of all let's go here and create a new class and say interface and say on item click listener, say okay, and in this we'll say public. So this interface is ready. Now in our main activity what we'll do is we'll implement that interface. Implements on item click, and to implement just press alt enter and say implement, and it is asking that this method, yes we want to implement this, and it is being implemented. So here what we want to do here is we want to pass this index to our description fragment. So before we do that, let's come here on our title fragment and pass this position to our main activity. To do that, what we need to do is first of all we need main activity object. To do that, how we'll do is we'll say on item click listener, and we'll say on item click listener equal to get activity. So we have now our main activity, and just we need to typecast this, say alt enter and say enter. So now we have our main activity, and now we will set this position so that it gets passed to our main activity. How we'll do that is on item click dot on item click, and we'll pass this index here, sorry, position here. So now from our list view we have passed the list item index to our main activity, and from the main activity now we want to pass this index to our description fragment so that our description will be set. So to do that, what we need is a fragment manager. Fragment manager has the context of all the fragments in our app. So we'll say fragment manager equal to fm equal to get fragment manager, and from there what we'll do is we'll say description fragment equal to description fragment equal to, now what we want is find fragment by ID. So we'll say okay, and we'll say okay, and here we'll pass our description fragment ID. So before we do that, we need to define our fragments in our main activity. So let's go to our main activity here. As you see here, simple text view is here, just delete this text view. Now what we'll do is we will include our two fragments in our main activity. So to do that, we need to come here in the custom and click on this fragment, and now it's showing which are the fragments available. So first is our description fragment is available, our title fragment is available. So first we'll say we need title fragment, so we say title fragment and double click on it and place it over here. And the second fragment we need is our description fragment, so just double click on it and place it over here. So as this, you can see that this is our relative layout. What we want is a linear layout. So to change that, just say linear layout, just enter and copy this linear layout text and place it over here. And now our linear layout is ready, and you see that this is our first fragment, this is our second fragment. First fragment represent list of title, and second fragment represent our description. One more thing we need to do is we need to set the orientation is vertical, so that each item comes after the other. So we'll say orientation equal to vertical. And now come to a design view, and in the design view what we'll do is we'll change this height to 0 for each of our fragment, and we'll let the Android system or the parent layout handle this for us. So we'll say 0 for the first, so we'll click on this fragment and we'll say height equal to 0, and for the second fragment also we'll say height equal to 0. By doing that, what we are doing that we are relying on our parent layout to set the height, and before that we'll give a weight to each fragment as 1, so that they get an equal weightage. I'll say here also I'll say weight is 1. So now I've given a weight to both of my fragments. It's saying that some rendering problem is here because we don't have any default data to display. Okay. So now first of all what we'll do is we will give some ID to our fragments. So just click first on this, and this is the name of our fragment, and ID will say here fragment, and say fragment, this is our title, so fragment title. Okay, say enter. And for the other fragment what we'll do is just shorten this, and this is our description fragments. Just click on this and say here fragment description. So now each of our fragment has an ID. Now we can come to our main activity, and here we can pass our description fragment ID, so that we have a description fragment here. So what I will do is I'll say r.id. Fragment description. So this is our fragment description. I'll typecast this, press alt enter and press one more time enter. So now we have our description fragment here. After getting our description fragment, what we want to do is we will set our course. So, and this is the course ID, and we will set the description of our course. So we'll say description fragment dot set course description, and we'll pass this index. So what we have done now is we got our course index. We have passed this course index to our description fragment to set the description of our course. Before I run, let me just walk you through what we have done. So what we have done so far is that first of all we created our description fragment, and in this class we overridden onCreateView method, and we inflated our description fragment layout in our parent container, and we have written our parent container here. And to set the description, we got our description text view, and this is a way to get the description text view in fragment. And in onCreate what we did is we got our description array, and we exposed one simple method which sets the description given the index of a description. Then we went on to create our list view for our title, and instead of extending from the simple fragment, we extended from the list fragment, so that we get the already implemented functionality of a list view. And instead of overriding onCreateView, we have overridden on activity created, and to set our data or to bind the data, what we did is we have called set list adapter, and this need an adapter which implements an interface list adapter. So our array adapter does that, so we have passed our array adapter here. And in the item click method, what we have done is we got object of our main activity or the object of any activity which implements our on item click listener interface, and we have passed the position of our title to an activity which implements our on item click listener method on item click. And our main activity implements our on item click listener. So when our title fragment calls this method on item click, we come to our main activity, and here what we have done is we have used our fragment manager to get our description fragment, and in the description fragment we set our description so that our description is displayed on the UI. Now let's run this code. Now you can see that I have launched our app here, and our course array is shown as a list here. You can see that it is scrollable up and down, and our description is shown here. So this is one fragment and this is another fragment. If you click on any of the item, the description is updated. So see, I have clicked on the item 3 and description is updated here. If I'll click on the item 4, description is updated. So in this module, we have learned about how to add multiple fragments to our activity and how to make sure that a fragment is self-contained and it does everything on its own, and we expose only simple methods which can be used to communicate between two fragments. And to do that, in our case what we have done is we have used our main method to communicate between the two fragments. So with this demo, this module is done, and in our next module we will learn more about fragments and swipe views. I hope you enjoyed this module. Thanks a lot for watching, and stay tuned for our next module.